Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Harshad here from Question Pro. Thank you so much for joining us on today's webinar. So let's get started. Let me quickly share my screen. All right. So I hope everyone can see my screen. All right. So today we will be going through a product showcase on Question Pro survey platform. And we have a Q&A section right below on the webinar panel. So just in case if you have any questions, we will be taking your questions one by one at the end of the session. So please keep on posting them and we'll go through them on the product as well. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so I'll quickly introduce myself. So I'm Harshad. I run the business for Question Pro, uh, and we are an online survey software company. We're based out of Austin, Texas, and we've been there into this business since the last 13 years. You know, helping companies all across the globe run surveys. What do we do is, we basically have provided individual licenses or university licenses to the University of Texas, where users can go ahead and create surveys from scratch. We have the following features. So basically, you can have more than different question types. We have more than 50 different question types to create your surveys, starting from open-ended questions, closed-ended questions, ranking scales, rating scales. Uh, we also have um, drag and drop, image rankers, videos, and so on. So you can even have a conjoint or a maxitive question type, a matrix, or a free text. We can also make the survey smarter by adding complex logic flows. So we'll be looking into how to make surveys smarter by designing, uh, a specific logic to have the right set of questions as to the right set of audience. Then the system is also powered by a very powerful analytical engine, which will not only allow you to collect data, but then you can analyze it right on the go on the platform itself. So you basically get access to real-time dashboards. You can also do text analytics, conjoint, correlation, and data segmentation. All the survey reports can be exported into various formats like PowerPoint, Excel, SPSS, and PDF. We also have an offline survey app, which is basically used for offline research. You can download this application, which is named as Question Pro Offline Surveys on any Android or iOS device. Perfect. So let's just dive into the product. Right. So once you log into your Question Pro account, this is what you'll be able to see. You'll have a list of folders over here where you can organize all your surveys, and you have an option over here to create a survey from scratch. Let's start off by creating a survey from scratch. So if I click on create a new survey, I have these options. We can create it one from scratch, or we can define or select a predefined template for various options that we have over here. So if I click on scratch here, we need to enter a name for the survey. Webinar series, and I click on create. So once you click on create survey, you're navigated to this pane over here, which is the administrative panel where you can go ahead and start building your survey from scratch. So here we have two options where we can either start off by adding an introduction text. So let's say if we click on add intro, we get a quick option over here to talk about what's the survey about and a quick introduction about why are we running this survey to the audience. So this is again a quickly editable field. All right, so that's my introduction, and then we can go ahead and add and build onto the questions. So here I can simply click on add question. I get a pane over here on the left hand side where I can start adding different type of questions onto the survey. So we have standard and basic and advanced question type. So in basic, let's start off by choosing a single select multiple choice question. So I select this option over here and we can go ahead and start building our survey. So let's type in our first question. Online, for example, right? And here we can start adding the options. And so on. So let's say if you want to make this question mandatory, you can select this option over here, which is the required option. Or if you don't want it mandatory, you can just turn this toggle off. So now let's go and add some other type of question type. So we have, star ratings, a smiley rating scale. Let's add this one here. We can edit the options or the fields over here as well for each of these labels. We also have a text slider question type like this. So let's say if you want to add a slider, let's say we put in Amazon, eBay, and here let's say we want to edit these columns. We can edit them in bulk over here. I click on edit, I can add the scale over here manually, or I can select the scale from the scale library. So let's say we select the scale and we save it. And then we have a rating scale question type here. We also have a rank order or a constant sum or drag and drop question type. So you can either just edit the options over here and then use this as a drag and drop question. So then we have some static content questions. So for example, let's say if you want to add a heading or a subheading onto the survey, or just to make some sections onto the survey, you can use the presentation text. This would just be some static content that's used onto the survey. Now, let's say if you want to add something like a comment box for open-ended questions, you can use your comment box question type here. And here you have an option to change a single row or a multiple row text box. You can even make sure if you want to capture email address, you can select the answer as email address over here. Let's say if it's numeric data, you can select this option. You can even set up a character limit, and you have an option to set up the size of the comment box over here. So let's say increase the cell width. We can then also use some question types like contact information for capturing demographic information. So we've got first name, last name, phone number, email address. We can even go ahead and edit these fields. So just in case if you want something else on these options. Then we have some question types like an image chooser as well. So let's say if you want to add an image to your survey, you can select an image chooser question type. So here, let's say we're going to change the question. We can edit the question here. And let's say if you want to add images, you click on edit image. You can directly browse the image from your system over here, or we also have a Google image search option over here. So let's say we search for Amazon. And let's say if you want to add eBay, for example. And I hit on save. Let's say if I want to add multiple options, apart from this, I can just simply click on add option and you can go and add other options onto the survey. So that's how you add images onto the survey here. So here we've got a multiple choice image chooser and a rating scale just below the images as well. Then we also have matrix question types over here where we can use a multiple point scale. This is a single select multiple point or a multi-select, and then we have spreadsheets. So let's just try to set up a matrix question here. And here we can define the scale. Let's go to edit columns in bulk. And we have the rating scale again. And let's select this option, and we have the options built. So here we can definitely go and add or classify the rating scale. You can even add them manually by typing the options over here. You can then even set up your anchor scales on the left and the right hand side. So that's a matrix question type. You can even add images over here as well. So let's say if you want to add images or, or make this much more interactive by adding a table, you can then add an image hyperlink over here as well by choosing the image from the media library. And let's say if you're going to use the image for Amazon, I click on this option, I select get HTML, and I've copied the HTML code, and I can go back to Workspace. And let's preview this real quick. There you go. So you can actually see the image would populate here, and then you have the question. All right, so let's move on to some other question types. We've got, some miscellaneous questions over here like date and time, captcha, calendar questions, and then we also got maps. So you can choose between any of these. Or let's move on to some of our advanced question types here as well. So we have the customer net promoter score question type, which is used for measuring uh, NPS for customer satisfaction questions. So it's generally a scale between 0 to 10. You can define your company's, or you can define your NPS question over here, and then you have the scale over here. We also then have the Van Westendrop or the price, the price sensitivity question type, where you can actually use this to understand if a product's pricing is too expensive, or is it a bargain, and so on. So let's say if you select this question type here, you can define the price range over here. The questions are already defined for it, and it's again a rating scale, so you can actually define the range, and then you get this question type set up. All right, so click on add question, and we'll go to advanced. And we also have a budget scale, a tube pulse over here as well. So let's say if you want to add a video to your survey, we can click on tube pulse here. And this is a video rating question type. So you have video, and then you have a ranking scale just below that. So we can go to YouTube and add a video. So let's just open up YouTube real quick. Let's say if I want to add this video. All right. And then we have this code over here, which is the YouTube video code. I copy this code. Let's close this video over here. And we go to settings, and then we have the YouTube video code and over here, and then you get to see that onto your survey. Then we also have a heat map or a hotspot over here as well, which you can use. So let's say if you're going to use a heat map question type, you can use this one, or a hotspot, which is for image hotspots. Then moving on to some advanced options, we've got conjoint and maxdiff as well, which are choice-based question types, which are used for understanding consumer behavior and price sensitivity towards brands. I'll be showing you an example, a detailed example on conjoint uh, shortly, so you can actually see how that actually works on Question Pro. So let's move on to advanced, question types like advanced matrix. So you can have a side-by-side matrix, something like this set up as well, or a complex grid question type, something like this, which would be a combination of a drop-down, a rating scale, and a slider as well. We also have the homunculus question type, which is used for medical research. And then we also have the zip, the reference data validator. So let's say if you're going to use to validate zip codes or even a lookup table like a dropdown or a multi-tier lookup table as well. We also have a store locator question type where you can actually have them locate the store of a particular brand or a company. We can also use a numeric validator like this as well. We also have options for mobile question type. So let's say if you want to use a stopwatch or a barcode, which you want to scan using your offline app, you can use any of these question types, which are only supported for your offline surveys. So this is a QR code scanner, which would be scanned through the camera of the device, which is going to be used for offline surveys. Then we also have an option to upload data onto the survey using the upload file question type. You can upload a PDF, an Excel, an image, or even a spreadsheet document onto the system. So we've covered most of the question types over here, and you can explore how to use them by selecting any of these options over here. We also have a library over here where you can select any questions onto the survey directly from any of your surveys that you've already created, or you can actually save them onto your library so you can use them frequently onto rest of your surveys. So that's how you start editing or drafting your survey on Question Pro. I'll just take a couple of questions over here that we have in terms of the question types. So we have the first question over here where we say, can you add fields to the contact information question type? For example, department or mailing address. Also, what if you only want to keep the name and the email address in the contact information question type? Yes, it's possible. We can go ahead and do that. So let's go over here. So this is the contact information question type here. So for example, let's say if you're going to use department, or let's say if you just want to use two options, we can remove the options over here in contact information and just have two options over here. So we have an option to enable certain options over here. So let's say if you're going to use mailing address, phone number, email address, and so on. So you can enable the options over here and then edit the names over here as well. So That also addresses the second question that we had, which question would you use for filling in an address? So we have an option for mailing address, so you can select that option here. So the next question that we had on the question type was, what other video content management platforms are supported on the two-pulse question type? Is it possible to share your library with other users within Question Pro? So let's go over here. We have the video question type over here. So you can either upload a video directly by adding it to the media library onto your system over here. If you have the video on your computer, which can be an MP4 format, or you have an option to select. We have these two options over here currently, which is YouTube and use the library video. We will be adding an option called as Vimeo, where you can actually select videos from uh, Vimeo here. So if I just Google this really quick, so you can directly upload a YouTube, video from Vimeo as well. So this option is something that we would be releasing on the 21st of November, where you can directly use videos from this platform as well. And you'll see this option populate right over here shortly. So currently it's just YouTube, and then you can use a video library. All right, so we have another question. Can those options be validated for the contact information? So yes, so we have an option over here for your contact information question type. So over here, if we have a phone number, so it needs to be a number input itself. It's going to accept a numeric input. If it's an email address, it needs to be a valid email address. That's when it will allow the user to completely or probably accept the response for the email address. So these two question types can be used for validation, but if you have the first name or department which are open-ended texts, those validations cannot be done. But if you have something like mailing address, so for example, zip codes and state and so on, so you can actually have validation placed there as well. All right, so let's just dive into the product again, and we'll continue with the product showcase, and we'll take the next set of Q&A, after we've done a couple of more options over here. So you've seen how to edit the survey from scratch, and design all the set of questions. We then have the survey URL over here, which you can even edit as well. So you can have, I'm just typing in the URL that I want to, and I can save this here. As long as it's not been used, I can use the, the customized link over here, which would be utepwebinarseries.questionpro.com. I have an option to add a logo over here for the survey. So if I click on add logo, I can add a particular logo to the survey. So let's say if I select this image and click on save changes, then I can have this resize. So this will We automatically resized here. I can take a quick preview of the survey over here as well. So if I click on preview, I can see how the survey looks like. So this is the introduction text. I click on next, and this would be my survey. I can then see it on different devices as well on how it's going to look. Over here. All right. So let's move on to the design aspects of the survey. So you can customize the theme, the logo, and also the font type as well. So if you go to design, you have an option to choose from standard themes over here. You can choose a color palette, or you can just select any of these over here as well. And you can experience how that would look like over here. If you go to custom themes, you can then customize each and every option over here as well. And in display settings, you can actually, change some of the major display settings onto the survey. So like the progress bar location. Then we have the next and finish button content. Let's say if you're on display, the question numbers over here, you can enable this. And so these are some of the options that we have here in design. In media library, we basically have an option to upload videos, images, files, or documents that you want to use onto the survey. And then, you can just basically go ahead and use them throughout the survey itself. So if you just click on this option and you simply use get HTML, you can just use this HTML code anywhere onto the survey, and it can be used as an image. So you can then also have your surveys created in different languages. We have an option to add different languages over here. So if I click on add languages, I can choose between any of these languages that are set up over here. So we have around 108 different languages that Question Pro supports today. So let's say if you want to choose a particular language, you can choose, let's say if I want to select French, I click on Save Changes, and then I have an option to automatically import transactions or translations, or I can add them manually as well. So some of the languages have issues with, uh, you know, automated translation. So because, the respect value in certain languages is not completely translated. So we give both the options either to auto translate or to have the translations entered manually as well over here. So if it's for manual translations, you need to simply go and add the text over here for every single question. So as the translations are imported, or you can just have an auto translate set up over here. So that's about adding, different languages onto your survey for your audience. Let's move on to, some of the advanced features that we have here. So let's move on to how to make surveys smarter by adding logic to surveys. So I have the survey here real quick. Let me open this up. Great. So we have an option to add logic to the surveys to make the survey smarter. So as you have the right set of questions as to the right set of audience. So for example, I have this survey where we have the first question that is, do you like ice cream? And it's a yes or no question type. And the second question is, which flavor do you like? So based on this question's response, I'm going to go and show or probably skip or probably show a particular question over here. So for example, if it's do you like ice cream is yes, then I'm going to branch it to the second question that is which flavor do you like? If it's a no, I'm going to branch it to the third question, which is do you like cake? So it automatically skips this question. And how do I do that? So the way to do that is if I go to logic over here, I have an option to add skip logic. So if the answer is yes for do you like ice cream, I'm branching it to the second question over here that is which flavor do you like? And if it's a no, I have the option over here to select it to do you like cake? And I click on save logic. So once the logic is saved, you can actually preview this to see how it actually works. So this is our question. Do you like ice cream? I click on yes. Let's see. And then you have the option over here, like which flavor do you like? The comment box that populated there is basically a dynamic comment box. So you have an option to either have a dynamic comment box based on an answer option selected, or you can then either just branch the flow as well. So you have a question over here like, do you like cake? If I select yes over here, then it's asking which flavor do you like. Let's say I select dark chocolate, and then it gives me this option over here. So let's go back to the survey. So if the option over here is yes for do you like ice cream, and it's yes for do you like cake, that's when I'm going and showing ahead this question over here where it says, would you like to place your cake and ice cream combo pack order? So in logic, we have certain options over here like skip, compound, or delete branching. So skip logic is basically used to branch your set of questions to a particular set of questions onto the survey. So you should ideally start setting up logic once you're done drafting the entire survey questions onto the platform, and then you can then go and set up the flow. So you have an option to choose over here to branch it to either a certain set of questions onto the survey, or you can even then take them to the thank you page or chain them to another survey as well, based on the response of the question. So that's skip logic. Let's go through some of the advanced logic options as well, like compound and delete branching. Just open up a quick survey here. Right. So let's say if I want to add logic on this question, I go to logic. So this question over here is the purpose of my trip was, and then I have certain options over here, right? And let's say if I want to add compound or delete branching, I can set up a criteria over here, and I select the criteria options over here. So we have the option to set up the criteria based on questions, system variables, geolocation, device type, and so on. So let's define the name of the criteria. So I'm setting up the criteria over here as if the purpose of my trip was business meetings is selected, and then this will be delayed branching. So let's say I want to branch it to this question over here, for example. So based on a particular criteria, this is how compound or delayed branching would work. So it can be multiple criteria as well. So if you just selected business crest travel over here, it can be based on multiple questions as well onto the survey. And I click on save logic, and that gets saved onto the survey. So if it's business meetings, it will then directly branch me to question which is right below somewhere here onto the survey. We also have certain options over here like quota control, where you can define a particular quota. So let's just reset this logic so as we can view the other options. Right, so here you can add a particular quota for any of these answer options as well. We can have a dynamic comment box, which will be an open-ended question based if an answer option over here is selected. We also have a show hide logic, which is going to basically show or hide a particular question based on the response or a criteria that you create. So you can define the criteria over here. So for example, we have one criteria over here which is already created, that's business class travel. So if this criteria is met, then you can basically show or hide a particular question. We also have an option to show hide answer options here. So again, the same method, create a criteria, and then you can use to show hide a particular option over here within the question. We also have scoring logic over here where we can define a score value and then use it for branching the questions onto the survey. So for example, let's say if the score value assigned over here is 3, we can basically assign weights over here. So if the score value is between 0 to 3, or let's say if I create a criteria here, right? So if this score value is between 2 or 3, I can then, use that to branch it to any particular question here. So that's scoring logic. You can even then use it for tests as well or quizzes. So you can define a score value and then for every single question and then have that shown at the end of the survey to calculate the marks of the entire test. So that's score logic or scoring logic for you. All right, so we've gone through, all the logic options that we have to set up different flows and, use certain options over here to, ask the right set of questions to the right audience by setting up logic. Let's go on to something more advanced. We have a conjoint analysis survey. So we just talked about conjoint question types as well and why has it been used. So let's just go through a conjoint question type here real quick. So here I have a survey where uh, I have used a conjoint question type. You can add a conjoint question by clicking on add question and then using conjoint question over here. So I've added this question over here, which states, if you were to buy an air ticket, which airliner would you travel if you were to fly from London to San Francisco? And I have the features over here. So the first feature is the brand, that's the airline, and I have the certain options over here. The second feature is the cost or the price, and the third and fourth can be others, which would be class of travel and lounge access. So what is conjoint generally used for? It's basically used to study consumer behavior based on a particular brand, price, and some other attributes which might be, for example, over here, that is class of travel and lounge access. So it's basically used to understand the consumer behavior and the perspective of of a customer when he's probably supposed to make a decision on a particular purchase over here, for example. Here I have an option over here where it says task count, and then we have concepts per task over here. So I'll show you what this actually means when we preview the question. And we have prohibited pairs over here. So I'll explain this when we see the question type here as well. So let's click on preview here. So now over here, we have the option to select a particular card or probably an option that you would prefer to, right? So here we have an option to select which airline would you choose. We have United Airlines for $1,400 with first class and lounge access, Emirates, and Etihad. So, for example, let's say if we have to make a decision on this, I would probably choose an Etihad Airways for $1,800 with first class travel. And then we're navigated to the next set of cards over here, which is again United Airlines and British Airways, again United Airlines, but the class of travel is different over here, right? So you can see that this is the second iteration over here. That's basically the second task. And then we have three concepts over here that are shown at once for every respondent. So those are the number of concepts. And we saw an option over there earlier when we were editing the question, which were prohibited question types. So for example, let's say if United Airlines doesn't offer the air ticket for probably economy for $1,200, we can then add a prohibited question pair over there, which would avoid that option to populate over here. So that's concepts per task, and the number of iterations over here are 2 of 4, which is the number of tasks over here. So the task count. So let's say we select, for example, I would probably choose this one over here. So it's $1,400 first class and lounge access. And over here, I would probably go with Etihad Airways again. Again, in this one, I would probably select Emirates. And I click on done here. So you can basically see it's basically asking me, different iterations over here on what I would choose, right? Which options I would choose. But if you see in every option that it showed us over here when we were answering the survey, there were different price points, there were different brands, there were different options over here for class of travel and lounge access, right? So while making this choice, every consumer who is answering the survey would have different priorities for all these options. So in conjoint analysis, you basically come to know what is the key or what is the most important attribute over here for any respondent who is answering or probably selecting or probably purchasing an air ticket to fly from London to San Francisco. Is it the airliner? Is it the price point? Or is it the class of travel that's really important to him? Or is it the lounge access? So we'll dive into the conjoint report over here to see how that actually comes out to. So I click on analytics here, and under analytics, I have a choice-based modeling option and I select conjoint analysis. And you can actually see this is how the report comes up to. So you have an option over here which says attribute importance, and then you have the airline, price, class of travel, and lounge access. And you can actually see that it seems to be the brand was the most important attribute for consumers today who were probably choosing an air ticket. So, and again, it was Emirates Airlines which got the most important or probably the most utility value out of all of these airlines. Then it was the price, which was 26%. And then you can actually see the $1,200 price point was the best option that people preferred while choosing the air ticket. The class of travel came to the third option that is 12%. So, and you can actually see it was business class or first class, which were the leading options over here, which people preferred. And then lounge access again, and its importance value or utility value over here. You can then look into each profiles over here as well. So the best and the worst profile that was selected over here is listed, and then you get to see the total part words and the airlines with the class of travel over here for every option. We can then also look into the price elasticity or the brand premium, where we can actually see the price elasticity for each airline over here. And then you can actually turn off certain options over here and then compare particular airlines as well. So that's conjoint analysis for you, and you can then download these options in the reports over here. So you can actually export this data over here into an Excel export. Let's look into another question type which we did not preview. It's the max diff question type. So over here, this is a really simple question type. It's actually used to, you know, understand which is the most and the least preferred option over here for a consumer. So for example, let's say we preview this question, you can choose the most and the least preferred option. So let's say select KFC over here and probably Subway as the least. I click on done and the survey is complete. And if I go to analytics here and we go to choice-based modeling, we click on max diff analysis. So you can actually see the preference or the share of the preference over here. So the most preferred option would be KFC and the least preferred would be Subway. So that's max diff question type for you. So we've done, we've gone through certain options over here where we can add questions onto the survey, add logic. We've seen certain different advanced question type options as well, like conjoint and max diff. Let's move on to the next part, that is how do we distribute or send surveys? So once you're done designing your survey over here, so for example, let's just pull up the survey here. Right. So once you're done designing all your surveys, or your questions, and you've done adding the logic, you can make sure you preview the survey to see and test it out. You can Then click on distribute over here to send out the survey. So in distribute, I have certain options where I can distribute the survey through. So the first option is email, then I have a website embed, or I can share using social media. Then I have community. So for community is basically if you have to probably manage a panel and send out regular surveys to them. Then we have audience. So for example, let's say if you want to reach out to certain set of panel, Question Pro also provides panel services. So you can reach out to edu@questionpro.com just in case if you're looking out for panel for your services for your survey. And then we have the offline app. So in email, we have an option to compose the email template over here. We can make the template smarter by using certain custom tags like first name, last name, or any custom variable that can be used onto the survey. So for example, we have an option to insert variables here, and I can use the first name. So as a personalized survey goes out to each respondent. So once you're done composing your email template over here, you have an option to select what type of survey you want to run. So do you want to do a tracked respondent survey or do you want to have an anonymous survey? So you can actually choose the type of survey link that you want to distribute over here. Then we have an option to upload an email list. So you can actually upload an email list from an Excel file or a CSV contact over here. So you can click on create an email list and it can be, let's just give it a name. It can be either survey specific or global list. So let's just keep it survey specific and we click on create a new list. And then we have an option to drag and drop an Excel file over here. So the format of the file would be something like this, where we have the email address, first name, last name, and then we have the custom fields over here, right? So if you go to import contacts and you go to advanced settings over here, you can select the format that you want to use. So let's say if we select email address, first name, and last name as a format, we can then simply click on browse and import the file. And we can skip the first option over here as a header and click on upload. You can actually see that it's going to map the email address, the first name, and the last name over here, so you can actually see the mapping information. And click on save. This would import the data file. All right, so let's just import one contact manually here as well. And also I'll use certain tags over here. So these are custom fields, which I'm going to use. So we have around 256 different fields that we can use over here. So you can use all these attributes onto your surveys and also on your content over here as well. So if the list is uploaded, I go over here and See over here, you can see that I've used the custom variable one, and I can add that by clicking on inserting variables and then choosing the variable. And here, let's say we add the first name again, and we select the email list that we want to distribute to. And we click on send. And the survey would be sent over here. Just preview if I've got the survey. There you go. So you can see that's using the variables here. It's copying the first name that's going to come up, and I can click on start survey to start the survey of the one that we have launched. And you can also see it's using the custom variables as well that we used. So that's how you deploy the survey through an email. You can then also send reminders to the batches that you've already sent out as well. Over here, you can even schedule the survey invitations over here as well. So if you want to schedule them, you can set that up over here. Then we have certain other options over here. Let's say if you want to, distribute the surveys through website or probably embed the survey through your website, you can simply click on embed surveys and you get to copy this code onto your website, and then you'll have the survey embedded onto your website. You can then share through social channels over here directly. Then, as you said, we also have an audience panel where you can reach out to us for audience. So once you get us, certain informations like, your demographic details that you're looking at to distribute the survey to you. So like the age range, the gender, the region, and probably the number of questions onto your survey, we can get back to you with a code which would be for your audience project. And this would be paid individually per researcher. So you can reach out to us directly for a panel request. You can just write to edu@questionpro.com, and you can just give us the specifications and we'll get back to you with the details. All right, so moving on to the next option, we also have the Question Pro offline app, which can be used for offline surveys. So once you download the Question Pro app from the iStore, let me just quickly open up a help file. So once you download the app on your tablet or phone, you can basically authenticate the app by a username and password. And the username and password would be on your Question Pro account over here. So you can add a device key, and then you have the username and the password over here, and then you can select the folder that you want to synchronize to your application. So those surveys would be synchronized to your tablet or phone, and then you can then take these surveys offline. So in the application, you just need to enter your username and password, and you click on sign in. So the username and password would be available here. So if I click on this option here, I get to choose certain options over here for the device. I select the language over here, and then also have the option to choose the folder that I want to sync. Let's say if you're going to enable location data, so you can enable this option as well. It will also track the GPS location from the tablet as well. So once your survey folders are synchronized to your app, you can then take the surveys offline and then collect data. And once you're connected to the Wi-Fi zone, it'll automatically synchronize this data to your Question Pro account. So that's about offline surveys and the distribution options that we have here. So now let's go through some of the analytical reports that we have on Question Pro. So here we have the overall analytical dashboard where we can actually see a real-time dashboard for the whole survey. And this will be designed for every single question type over here. Let me zoom this out a little bit. Right. So here you can actually see the overall statistics of the survey: viewed, started, completed, completion rate, dropouts if any, and average time taken to complete the survey. Then you have certain options over here for changing the type of charts as well. So for example, this is the first question on your survey. You can see charts and analytics here. You can change the type of a chart by selecting this option over here and going to a column or a pie chart, a bar graph, or a line graph as well. So this can be done for every single survey question that you have over here. Let's say if you want to filter out this data, you have certain options to filter data based on any of these options over here. So I'll just zoom this back again. So this is visible. Right. So here we have an option to filter the data based on a particular question. So let's say if I want to select a filter over here for the survey where I select the purpose of my trip was, for example, business meetings is selected. You can see the data is filtered for all the responses for business meetings, and you'll be able to see a detailed report on that. So that's data segmentation. You can actually save these filters over here as well, and then use it for your research. So for example, if I click on save filter, this you can give it a name, and then you can just choose a saved grouping, which would be a saved filter that you've already done. You can add another level onto the filter as well. So you can use this logic over here, which is and or, and then select another question as well. So that's basically going another level down to filter out the survey. You also have an option to filter based on system variables. So let's say if you want to filter out data based on some hidden variables that are probably not used on the survey, but are uploaded onto your contact list in custom variables, right? So for example, in custom variable one, or probably some other variable that you've got a data point, which is not used on the survey, but you want to use it to filter out data. So for example, let's say if you're to do an employee feedback survey and you have certain information points like department, um, designation, or some other fields like that, which are probably in these variables. So you can actually select this option over here and then filter based on system variables as well. So these data points would be hidden for the surveyor because they don't have to, the respondent don't have to, add these options. You've already got that database on your raw data that you've imported as your contact distribution option. So you can you just filter the data based on that as well here. We also can filter using geolocation or email list code or device type or a particular date or survey status over here as well. We have an option to share the live report link with your colleagues, so you can actually share this link over here. So let's say if you're gonna apply a filter and then share, so you can do that as well. So you set up a filter and then you can just share the live report link here. All right, so that's the dashboard report for you. You can actually, uh, you know, let me quickly zoom this out a little bit. Right. So you can actually go through some of the settings over here as well. So these are the report settings. So let's say on your dashboard, you want to only show a certain set of questions onto your survey report. You can select the options over here. So let's say you want to have a selected questions seen onto your dashboard, you can select that option over here. Then we have some basic dashboard settings that you can actually hover through over here. So now let's move on to how to download this data into different formats, right? So once you've done your report, you can download this data into different formats. So if I click on export here, I have an option to download reports in all these formats. So we have the raw data export, charts and analytics. We can export to SPSS as well, or then we have these two options as well. So let's say if you're going to export the raw data report, you can use display answer values and select the raw data export here. Let's say if you're going to add any of your date filters over here, you can add a data filter over here as well. And you click on download. All right, so we have the raw data file downloaded over here. All right, so here you have the introduction, then the overall statistics. Then we have the raw data. So in the raw data, you have the response ID, the IP address, the timestamp, and so on. And then if I scroll to the left, I can see all the customer variable data and then also the questions data for every single respondent. Over here. And then if I go to the next tab here, I have the question-wise report for every single question onto the survey. So that's the raw data report for you. You can then also export these reports to a PowerPoint, a PDF over here as well. So let's say if we select PowerPoint and you click on download. All right, and all right, so this is an automated PowerPoint presentation with all the charts and analytics export. You can then change the type of graphs over here. These are actual charts, so you can actually change the layout, the type of charts, and so on. You can make complete edits onto these reports as well. So that's about exporting reports. You can then also export it from here as well. So you can just download it from the options over here as well into any of these options. All right, so that's about the real-time dashboard. We also have, you know, an option to look into some advanced analysis options over here. So let's say if you want to do correlation or probably data segmentation, that's just the data filter that we've seen. Let's say if you want to run a quick correlation report or correlation analysis, you can run that directly from Question Pro by selecting the two questions that you want to correlate. So let's say I select these two questions to correlate. I can just simply click on generate experiment coefficient. I get to see the correlation report here. Let's see if I click on correlate all questions, then it'll give me a correlation data table over here for all the questions over here for every single question. All right, so that's about correlation analysis. We also have certain other options over here like cross tabulations, trend analysis. So let's say if you're collecting data over a period of time, you can use the trend analysis report to download trend data. You just need to add the start and the end date, and you'll get a raw data export. And I can simply click on download trend data. Again, this was an annual trend report, so you can see the change over here for all the options here. So that's the trend analysis report. Let's look into crosstabs over here. I have a quick survey for cross tabulations. So this is a basic survey where about a conference. So how do you learn about this conference? What's your gender? What's your role in this conference, and which industry do you belong to? It's four questions. We go back to analytics here. And in analytics, we have an option in analysis, which is cross tabulation. Create a new cross tab. Right. So here we basically get to select the rows in the columns. So let's just reset this and we click on add row and let's say if you want to run a crosstab to understand how many people um, came to know about the conference through Twitter or Facebook from the IT industry, right? So for example, we select these two questions and I have the option over here that's Facebook and Twitter. And then if I look at the corresponding column, that would be information technology. I have the value as two people. And I have certain options over here to enable row and column percentages as well. And Pearson chi-square statistics as well. So that's the crosstab report for you, where you can look into corresponding rows and columns. You can even download these reports into a PDF or a PowerPoint. Sorry, a PDF and a Excel report. And again, can be shared using this link as well directly. You can do further drill downs over here by selecting other questions over here. So that's a cross-tabulation report. So you can definitely explore some of the options that we have over here. So let's say we've got survey comparison. So that's for comparing two surveys. Let's say if you've done a survey this year and you probably you've done a survey this month and you want to probably run the same survey in the next 6 months. You can do a survey comparison by mapping identical questions on the survey and then look into comparison reports as well. All right, so that's about the reports that we have on Question Pro. You can actually explore all of these options that we have. So to look into each type of report over here. We also have an ability to integrate with Google Sheets over here. So just in case if you want to have a raw data export onto a Google Sheet, you can enable this option over here. We had a couple of requests from your university requesting access to a Google Sheet integration. So that's the option where we can actually do that. So all right. So yes, that's basically about the platform and how you can actually look into the real-time reports onto the dashboard. Let's just go and answer a couple of questions right now. Just open the chat window. All right, so we have one question. How do you mask the Question Pro web address with another address? So are you talking about this survey link over here? We have an option to edit the survey link over here. You can edit the option over here. So we have an option to just add a URL name over here, and then it will be .questionpro.com. So that's how you can edit this option. If you want to change the send email address, or if you want to mask the email address that's been sent over here, you can have the option to edit this over here. So you can change the name and the email address over here for distribute. I hope that answers your question. Then we have how do you validate the number and format? So yeah, we've seen that. So we can basically validate the number format on the validation options that we have. It's already validated for phone number, so you just basically need to select the phone number option and it will take a phone number, but it cannot directly validate if the phone number is correct, but it can take a numeric input for sure. All right, so how do you share a survey for collaboration? Great question. So let's say if you want to share a survey with a colleague within the university, we have an option over here called a share folder. So you can define surveys in particular folders over here from scratch and click on share folder. And you can give search the user over here. So once you click on share folder, you'll see all the users within your university, and you can click edit, report, or copy access to those sub accounts or those users. All right, so we have some options over here. Okay, so we're talking about logic, branching, show height, piping, and custom variables, right? So we've seen an example of all the logic options that we have. Probably we've not yet covered piping, so let's go through that real quick. So for example, I'm going to use a piping text over here, or probably I'm using a custom variable over here. So for example, this is called as, populating the data of the content on the first question to the second one here. So what I'm doing is I'm asking the first question is what's your name? And then I'm going to go to next set of questions. I'm going to use that data on a custom variable. And how do I do that? So here in settings, I define the open-ended question. I go to settings. I go to data pre-population. Sorry, not in data pre-population. It's in logic. In skip logic, I have an option over here as custom variable one. And I'm going to branch it to the third question over here. So from the third question, it will use this variable data in custom variable one. So the data which is in the open-ended question will be mapped on custom variable one. And I click on save over here. So if I click on preview, and then you can see it's using the variable over here. So that's how you use data from an open-ended question. So let's say if you want to use it for piping, so you can set up piping text over here by going into logic. I'll just, we've got it selected here. So here I can pipe the text over here. So if I put a piping text option over here as weekly, it will pipe this content over here to the next question. And I use the custom variable one for assignment. Again, it's the same thing. We use the variable, and to define any variable onto the survey, we use the tag over here that is $, curly bracket, custom one, and $, close again. I mean, the curly bracket closes over here. So you can use the variables over here on any of your survey questions. So the main ability to import variables from your data file that you import using your contact list, and then you can actually use those variables anywhere onto the survey over here. All right, so that's word piping. We've gone through branching, show height as well. How do I add a progress bar? So the progress bar is in design, and hold on, this is the old UI. Let me just go back to another survey. In design, we have an option in display settings to select the progress bar settings over here. All right, so how do you just get the link to copy and paste? So the link is available over here. So if it's an offline, the offline app is used for offline surveys. So just in case if you want to distribute the survey just using the link, you have this link over here, which you can copy and paste anywhere. Then we have the next question. Is the date default set by date, month, date, year for a date question type, right? Okay, so here, let's add this question type. So we have an option to select the format over here where we can choose the date format. You can even specify a year range as well. All right, perfect. So I believe that answers all our questions here. Let's just look into the Q&A panel. All right, perfect. So see if we have any other questions. All right, it seems you have answered all the questions over here. Great. So I'm just going to see the chat window again. All right, perfect. So it seems that we have no more questions. Uh, so guys, if you have any questions apart from this, feel free to just drop me an email. You can reach me at harshad@questionpro.com, or you can just directly write to our edu team that is at edu@questionpro.com for any questions or help on uh, on Question Pro. And just in case if you feel free to just in case if you need any immediate access to support, we have a live chat window over here. So if you just go to questionpro.com/help, we have a live chat window and also a detailed help file center over here as well. So you can either open up a live chat with our support reps, or you can directly have a help file visualized over here for all the options that we have. Great. So thank you so much, guys, for attending this webinar. It was a pleasure hosting you all. So just in case if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to help you out on that. Thank you so much again. Have a great day. Bye.